Hello and welcome to Science and Sleep, a place where you can let your curiosity wander while allowing your body to relax and drift into sleep naturally. Whether you are curling up under your blanket, resting your eyes after a long day, or simply seeking a quiet moment before bed, you've come to the right place. In today's video, we will explore fascinating stories about science, gentle, warm, and engaging enough to keep you company until the very end. So don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next adventures. Who knows, maybe tonight you'll both learn something new and fall asleep with peace of mind and excitement. Let us begin slowly, as if we were taking small steps through a silent museum, where fossils are lined up in glass cases. They are not just hardened stones, but fragments left from a great book, the Diary of Life. And one of the most frightening yet fascinating chapters in that book is the mass extinction events. Normally, when thinking of extinction, we often picture the quiet disappearance of a single unfortunate creature, a lonely bird unable to find a mate, a shrub whose seeds no longer sprout. But on the scale of geological time, the Earth sometimes does not just write quiet periods. Instead, it closes an entire chapter with a gigantic exclamation mark, so fierce it shakes the very foundation of evolution. And astonishingly, after each chapter ends, a new one opens, full of creativity and surprise. Imagine you are sitting in a time machine, flying back 445 million years. Back then, Earth was very different from today. No birds sang in the sky, no lush green forests cast their shade. Most life existed only in the oceans, a vibrant world of trilobites, brachiopods, ancient corals, and primitive fish struggling to find their place in the story of life. On land, there were only a few patches of moss and lichen clinging to rock, hardly anything that could be called a forest. Then a catastrophic change began. The climate suddenly grew colder as an ice age formed. Massive glaciers locked away vast amounts of the planet's water, causing sea levels to drop. Shallow coastal seas, once safe and fertile homes for countless species, suddenly vanished. Creatures were forced into narrower habitats, many unable to adapt. But before life could even begin to recover, the ice melted rapidly, seas rose again, and the climate shifted once more. It was a brutal 1-2 blow. The result? Around 85% of marine species were wiped out. Sadly, very few people have ever heard of this extinction, the end Ordovician event. It has no blockbuster movies, no roaring dinosaurs, but for the tiny creatures of that time, it was a true apocalypse. And for us, it is a reminder that Earth is never still. Every breath of climate, every movement of geology can shake the entire world of life. About 70 million years later, another chapter closed. This time, at the end of the Devonian, around 375 million years ago, when the oceans teemed with strange fish. It was the age of fish, when the seas were like a grand theater with armored actors gleaming, primitive sharks, and even fish whose fins were evolving into limbs. Meanwhile, on land, the first forests began to spread, lush and dense, altering the atmosphere by absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. It may sound like a golden era, but that very flourishing led to tragedy. As plants spread, they changed the chemistry of the oceans, leaving many waters starved of oxygen. Marine species accustomed to oxygen-rich environments began to die out. Added to this were shifts in sea levels and volcanic eruptions that worsened the crisis. It wasn't a sudden shock, but rather a slow-boiling pot that lasted tens of millions of years. The result, about 75% of marine species vanished. If you're listening at 10 p.m., perhaps this story makes you sleepy. Yet at the same time, it carries a deep weight. It reminds us that even the greatest prosperity can plant the seeds of decline. And for Earth, this process is not a single tragedy, but a recurring melody of life. Then, as if not dramatic enough, just over 100 million years later, Earth entered the greatest annihilation of all time, the end Permian extinction, also called the Great Dying. Imagine a stage where 90% of marine species and 70% of land animals disappeared together. The entire picture of life was nearly erased, leaving only fragments to rebuild. Scientists believe massive volcanoes erupted continuously for thousands of years, releasing poisonous gases, disrupting the climate, and turning the oceans into suffocating, oxygenless waters. From that near-total void, life had to rebuild from scratch. And strangely enough, from that destruction, new evolutionary branches arose. including the ancestors of dinosaurs and eventually the creatures that led to us. Without the Great Dying, today's planet might have belonged to an entirely different lineage, and those are only three of the five great mass extinctions that have occurred. Seen from above, they are not merely tragedies, but milestones, creative pauses in the symphony of evolution. Life, instead of collapsing, restructures itself, rewriting its own story. Like an old neighborhood suddenly emptied, opening space for new shops, new ideas, and new energy. As you listen to these stories before sleep, think about this. Every living thing around you, from the cat lying beside you, the tree outside your window, to humanity itself, is the descendant of survivors who endured billions of years of upheaval. We are here not by pure luck, but through a long chain of brutal trials that life has overcome. And one day, perhaps our own lineage will close as well, making way for something new. Looking back at the entire history of Earth, we realize that mass extinctions are not exceptions, but almost the heartbeat of this planet. There have been five such events, each wiping out most of life, only to make way for a new era. What is frightening is not only the number of species that disappeared, but the speed. On the scale of geological time, everything happened in the blink of an eye. These were the times when nature pressed the reset button, sending Earth back to an entirely new starting line. The first time, at the end of the Ordovician, the seas, the main home of life, suddenly froze and then melted again. The seas rose, the seas fell, the climate shifted abruptly. About 85% of marine species were erased. If you imagine the ocean as a bustling city with corals, mollusks, and plankton playing the roles of shops, cafes, and crowded streets, then suddenly everything vanished, leaving only empty roads. But that very emptiness a few million years later became the space for new species to build their own neighborhoods. Then came the end of the Devonian, about 370 million years ago. This time it was not ice, but oceanic chaos, oxygen depletion, dead seas. The primeval forests on land also declined. More than 75% of species vanished. The great armored placoderms, the giants that dominated the seas, were erased from the map of life. But once they fell, smaller, quicker fish found the opportunity to experiment with new forms, new survival strategies. It turns out that emptiness was actually fertile ground for creativity. If there was ever a truly apocalyptic event, it was the end of the Permian, 252 million years ago. The catastrophe many scientists call the Great Dying. More than 90% of marine species and 70% of land species disappeared. Massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia turned the sky into a deadly laboratory. Carbon and methane gases heated the planet, oceans acidified, oxygen vanished. It was as if Earth had become an overloaded machine with gears breaking apart one after another. But the miracle was that even that darkness, life still held on with a few faint sparks. They clung, endured, and eventually rekindled the flame of evolution. About 50 million years later, life once again faced a turning point, the end Triassic extinction. This time, earthquakes from the breakup of the supercontinent Pangaea unleashed rivers of lava and a chaotic climate. 75% of species disappeared. But out of that ash, dinosaurs, once only a small group, stepped onto the main stage. For the next 135 million years, they were the very symbol of strength and dominance. But like every dynasty, their time too had to end. The end Cretaceous extinction, the most famous, occurred 66 million years ago. A giant asteroid struck the Yucatan Peninsula, releasing an amount of energy equivalent to billions of nuclear bombs. The skies darkened, plants withered, food chains collapsed. Dinosaurs, those proud rulers, were erased. And in that emptiness, small shrew-like creatures which had hidden in the shadows for millions of years suddenly had an entire world to experiment with. They grew larger, they spread wider, became smarter. From creatures cowering in the dark, they became the ancestors of today's mammals, and ultimately humans. What is remarkable is that after each extinction, life did not return by simply copying what was lost. It became more creative, more diverse. Like an artist facing a blank canvas after the old painting was wiped clean, nature did not repeat itself but always experimented. Flowering plants, bees, bats, birds, mammals, all are products of these reconstructions after catastrophe. Each reset was like an upgrade. Old rules were broken, leaving room for new possibilities to bloom. You can imagine Earth as a city after a storm. At first, ruined, empty, cold. But then the survivors' small and resilient species began to rebuild. They did not recreate the old city exactly as it was, but opened new streets, strange shops, ideas never seen before. In evolutionary language, this is called adaptive radiation, when a small group of survivors suddenly diversifies, filling every ecological niche left vacant. This very phenomenon has shaped the grandeur of life. From ashes, a new world, richer in imagination and diversity than ever, appears once again. And perhaps in that harsh rhythm, we find a strange comfort. Because if even after the great floods of destruction, life still found a way to return, not just return, but shine brighter, then surely within us small human beings there also exists the seed of resilience. Earth is not just a blue marble spinning in space, but an ancient artist, sometimes wiping the canvas clean only to create a new masterpiece. If you imagine Earth as a vast stage, then each mass extinction is like a sudden curtain drop. The audience has no time to applaud, the familiar actors leave the spotlight, and silence fills the void. But then, like a familiar miracle, the velvet curtain rises again. Not the old characters returning, but entirely new roles, strange, yet still carrying the breath of the ancient script. That is how life revives, not merely to continue, but to rewrite itself. Let us return to the moment after the catastrophic impact 66 million years ago, the event that closed the glorious reign of the dinosaurs. When dust covered the sky, sunlight vanished, and plants collapsed, life itself seemed to retreat. But in the ashes, a group of silent artists stepped onto the stage. Fungi. They thrived on the corpses of plants and animals, decomposing and recycling nutrients. In a world where many species fell apart, fungi entered their golden age. You could say they were the planet's first resuscitation doctors, keeping the rhythm of life from ever stopping completely. From there, an important phenomenon occurred: ecological release. When giants like dinosaurs vanished, countless ecological niches opened up. Imagine a town where monopoly stores shut down, and suddenly small shops sprang up, each trying out new recipes to serve customers. Life is the same. Species once suppressed, forced to live in the shadows, now had the chance to step into the light. They seized territories, discovered new food sources, and began a burst of evolutionary experimentation. Think of Darwin's finches on the Galapagos Islands, each evolving its beak differently to exploit food. Now magnify that experiment to planetary scale. Small rodents gradually branched into diverse relatives, some digging burrows, some climbing trees, some swimming, even some singing under the moonlight. From chaos and emptiness, the biological universe once again wove a new symphony. Yet not every species chose change. Some creatures, like the horseshoe crab or the ginkgo tree, found stable oases and held on for hundreds of millions of years. They did not join the arms race, did not rush to evolve. Instead, stability itself was their survival strategy. Here, evolution gives us an intriguing lesson. Sometimes being boring is the key to lasting. But evolution does not flow evenly like a gentle river. It often pauses, stumbles, then suddenly erupts. The theory of punctuated equilibrium, proposed by Stephen Jay Gould and Niles Eldredge, described this peculiar rhythm: long periods of calm interrupted by sudden shifts when the whole world seemed to transform in just a few geological heartbeats. After each extinction, the board was wiped clean. New players entered with different strategies, and the game restarted, fiercer, more unpredictable. To picture this, imagine a small lizard hiding in the forests of the Cretaceous. It was not majestic like the dinosaurs, but quick, able to climb, and clever enough to survive on insects. When catastrophe struck, forests burned, skies darkened, and giants disappeared. Yet, that lizard endured through luck and adaptability. A few million years later, its descendants were no longer just climbers. Some grew gliding wings, some learned to fly, and gradually became birds, symbols of freedom in the sky. A creature once ordinary had sparked an entirely new era. Extinction events also often produce a bottleneck effect. When a population shrinks drastically, most genetic diversity vanishes, leaving only a few fragments. At first glance, this seems like a disadvantage, but that very narrowing shapes the evolutionary path that follows. Humans too once went through such a moment. Around 70,000 years ago, our numbers may have fallen to only a few thousand individuals. And from that small group, all of humanity today was born. Perhaps the traits unintentionally chosen at that time, better memory, stronger cooperation, helped us come so far. Another phenomenon is convergent evolution, when unrelated species develop similar traits. Dolphins, sharks, and ichthyosaurs all evolved streamlined bodies, fins, and similar swimming styles, because water favors only a few efficient designs. After each reconstruction of life, nature often rediscovers familiar answers to old questions, like a cafe in a neighborhood shutting down, then a new one opening in the same spot. The menu changes, the decor differs, but espresso is still served. This reminds us that evolution is not only endless creativity, but also a remix. Each extinction does not erase the melody, but changes the instruments, adding strange variations. Life does not return as it was. It is reborn, distorted, unfamiliar, yet always carrying hope. And above all, evolution holds an element of chance. Many species survived not because they were the strongest, but simply because they were lucky. Some happened to hide in the right place, others ate food that was less affected. The dice of fate were rolled again, the board reset, and the game continued. It is precisely this chaos that creates the wonder. From the planet's darkest nights, dawn always comes, bringing forms the world has never seen before. When night fell upon the planet after the fateful impact, life did not completely vanish, but rather lingered like a dying flame, quietly smoldering beneath a thick blanket of ash. The Earth at that time was no different from a grand play after the curtain had closed. The dinosaurs, the mightiest actors of all, had left the stage, leaving behind an emptiness for overlooked characters to step forward. And from that very silence, a new chapter of evolution began to be written. In this new world, small, unassuming creatures suddenly became resilient survivors. They did not need enormous muscles or terrifying jaws. Instead, they had flexibility, warm blood to endure the cold, the ability to hide in burrows, and a varied diet that could take advantage of every leftover scrap of food. These very traits allowed mammals to endure the darkest era, gradually filling the void the dinosaurs had left behind. Imagine this. While the sky was still thick with ash, somewhere in the shadows, a tiny creature was digging for seeds, chewing on insects, or curling deep inside its burrow to wait for the day when light returned. No one would have thought that these quiet survivors were the very seeds of a magnificent chapter, from which millions of years later would emerge giant whales, bats soaring in the night, wise elephants, and even the ancestors of humankind itself. This is one of evolution's wondrous paradoxes. The rulers are not always the ones who endure. On the contrary, sometimes it is smallness, flexibility, and even ordinariness that becomes the advantage for survival. The extinction event taught life a profound lesson. True strength lies in adaptability, not in overwhelming power. As the ash slowly cleared, the planet began to recover. Plants returned, greenery gradually covered the earth, and the world suddenly became an empty stage with countless roles waiting to be filled. Mammals then entered a great experiment of evolution. Some sought the trees, developing hands to grasp and eyes to measure distance, laying the foundation for primates. Others returned to the oceans, transforming into new forms, the ancestors of whales and seals. Some remained small but tested their resilience in countless environments, from burrows in the ground to plains and dense forests. Not only mammals, but birds, the only surviving descendants of dinosaurs, also exploded in diversity. From tiny songbirds to giant flightless terror birds, they conquered the skies and opened a vibrant evolutionary era. This diversity reshaped the entire planet, like a new symphony rising after a long silence. If you look deeper, you'll see extinction was not merely a tragedy, but a catalyst for the world to turn a new page. Like a raging forest fire, it sweeps away the old, painful, and brutal, yet at the same time opens space for new life to grow. Without that asteroid, dinosaurs might still dominate, and we, humans, might never have had a chance to exist, meaning it was precisely from destruction that our journey became possible. It is astonishing to think that every step humanity takes today, from gazing at the starry sky, exploring the universe, to you listening to this very story, all trace back to a chaotic moment 66 million years ago. Had the asteroid arrived a few minutes later, or struck a different place, or if mammals had not been patient and adaptable enough, everything could have been entirely different. No science stories, no music, no dreams, and no us. But the miracle lies here. Life does not only disappear, it also knows how to be reborn. In every speck of dust, in every flicker of light, there is always the hidden potential to burst into something entirely new. That is the silent magic extinction leaves behind, a reminder that even in the deepest darkness, life still finds a way to ignite a new flame. And tonight, as you slowly drift into sleep, try to picture yourself as one of those sparks. Small, fragile, yet resilient enough to weather the storms, and from the very ruins begin again, more refined, stronger, and ready to create the next miracle. There's a strange thing that extinction always leaves behind. It is like an invisible hand, clearing away the old stage and giving opportunities to newcomers. In a moment, it seems as if everything ends, but in reality, another chapter begins. Imagine Earth as a vast forest ravaged by fire. From the ashes, tiny sprouts emerge again, opening up an entirely new world. Evolution works the same way. It does not grieve, it does not reminisce, it simply experiments again, like creates again, like a patient but sometimes daring artist. After the greatest extinction event 252 million years ago, when nearly all life was wiped out, this planet looked no different from a wasteland. The atmosphere was thick with toxic gases, the oceans depleted of oxygen, and the land so scorching hot that it seemed no creature could endure it. Yet, after just a few million years, a mere blink on the geological timescale, new creatures appeared. Some looked so bizarre that if you encountered them in real life, you might think they had stepped out of a nightmare or a low-budget sci-fi movie. But that was precisely the fascinating point. It was their strangeness that brought success. Creatures like Lystrosaurus, a tusked reptile that looked like a pig crossed with a salamander, came to dominate most of the planet. They were not beautiful, but they were tough, omnivorous, able to withstand harsh climates, and most importantly, they survived when most other creatures vanished. In evolution, adaptation does not always mean elegance or strength. Sometimes just being resilient and hard to kill is enough to rule. And from that foundation, dinosaurs emerged. But don't picture the gigantic dinosaurs of the movies just yet. In their early days, they were small, odd, and experimented with countless body plans. Some had lizard-like bodies but walked on their toes. Others had unusually long necks or thin, wiry frames. Think of evolution as a vast laboratory where designs are tested, discarded, or preserved if useful. Over millions of years, those strange prototypes gradually became the giants that dominated the planet, from plant eaters as tall as buildings to predators with dagger-like teeth. But then, as we know, dinosaurs, except for birds, disappeared after the asteroid impact 66 million years ago. And once again, the stage was cleared. This time, those who remained were not giant lizards or reptiles, but the small creatures that had long hidden in the shadows. Mammals. In the dinosaur era, they were tiny, often no bigger than mice, living nocturnal lives to avoid predators. But when the giants were gone, they stepped into the light, and evolution seemed to ignite like fuel poured on fire. Suddenly, there were massive beasts like Indracotherium, nearly 5 meters tall and heavier than a convoy of trucks. Or Basilosaurus, a primitive whale up to 18 meters long, looking nothing like modern whales, but more like a colossal sea serpent. Some returned to the ocean, others climbed to mountain peaks. Evolution seemed to be playing with Lego on a planetary scale, taking old pieces and rearranging them into new shapes. Even plants and fungi joined this game. After the asteroid impact, when smoke and dust covered the skies and forests collapsed, fungi suddenly exploded in abundance. They fed on the immense mass of corpses and rotting wood, turning Earth into a gigantic fungus feast. If you could travel back in time, you might have seen the planet looking like a colossal compost heap covered in white fungal threads. And from that environment, life built a new chapter. This leads us to a thought-provoking truth. Each extinction, no matter how catastrophic, opens up unprecedented possibilities. If dinosaurs had not disappeared, would mammals have had the chance to dominate? If ancient hominins had not gone extinct, would Homo sapiens have become the sole inheritors of Earth? And if we humans were to vanish one day, who would be the next main characters? No one knows for sure. But history suggests this. The successors might be the species we least expect. It could be birds, it could be octopuses, or even some microorganisms silently evolving in the dark. Evolution does not care about who deserves it. It only cares about who survives and leaves behind offspring. And perhaps it is this thought that makes us humble, because we humans are not the final endpoint of evolution's story, but only a chapter. Like millions of species before us, we too are subject to the same law: adapt or disappear. But the difference is, we are the first species capable of being aware of it. We know that extinction is not just a story of the distant past, but a possibility lurking right here in the present. But it is precisely because of that awareness that we have the chance to write the story in another direction. Not by letting evolution choose the next successor, but by choosing to become the guardians, the keepers of this fragile biosphere. Because if life can rise again after the most terrifying disasters, then surely it can also be nurtured by our care and our wisdom. You can imagine this. Our Earth is not a static painting, but like a vast symphony. Every species, from tiny fungi in the forest to dolphins in the deep sea to humans themselves, contributes a note. When a species disappears, not only does one sound fall silent, but the entire composition changes. And right now, that symphony is losing too many melodies all at once. Scientists call this the sixth mass extinction. Unlike asteroid impacts or supervolcanoes in the past, this time the main cause comes from us, the inhabitants of the planet. Overexploitation, deforestation, pollution, and climate change have thrown nature's rhythm off balance. An estimated 1 million species are at risk of disappearing, from tiny pollinating insects to enormous ocean creatures. Sounds distant? But consider a closer example: bees. If bees vanish, hundreds of plant species will no longer be pollinated. No plants, no fruit, no seeds. And like a domino effect, entire ecosystems, including us, would be affected. The world would lose not just a species of bee, but the stability of the food chain, the soil, and the daily meals on our tables. Or imagine coral reefs. Small and fragile, yet they are the underwater cities that support nearly a quarter of marine life. When corals die due to warming and acidifying seas, not only do fish lose their homes, but fishing communities lose their livelihoods. This is not a distant disaster in the Pacific. It is a critical piece of human life. But there is one thing that makes us different from the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. We know what is happening. We have the tools to measure, the language to name, and most importantly, the ability to choose. This is extraordinary. Humans are the first species in Earth's history to recognize that they are in the midst of a mass extinction event, and simultaneously the first to have a chance to do something to change it. And in fact, small miracles have already occurred. California condors, once down to fewer than 30 individuals, now number in the hundreds thanks to conservation efforts. Black-footed ferrets in North America, Mauritius kestrels, and Arabian oryx, once thought extinct in the wild, have returned. These stories are not just data on scientific reports. They are proof that extinction does not always mean the end. When humans act together, hope can be rekindled. It is not just individual species. Entire ecosystems can be restored. Consider Yellowstone. Reintroducing wolves not only brought wolves back to the forest, but changed the behavior of deer, giving trees a chance to grow, which in turn brought back many birds, beavers, and even altered the flow of rivers. A small change in one link and the entire web of life readjusted toward balance. Of course, the greatest challenge remains climate change. It acts like a magnifying glass on all other problems. Habitats disappear faster, diseases spread more widely, and competition between species becomes more intense. But even here, there are reasons to hope. Renewable energy is growing rapidly, greener cities are emerging, and many indigenous communities are showing the world how to live in harmony with nature. The Paris Agreement, though imperfect, is at least a global commitment, and the younger generation, perhaps you, is increasingly aware, raising their voices to protect this planet. So what can we sitting here, relaxing in the evening, do? You might think you are just one small individual, but remember, every action creates ripples. What you choose to eat, buy, or support all shapes the world. When millions of small choices converge, they can shift the course of an entire planet. And perhaps that is the most miraculous thing. Extinction brings loss, but it also leaves a space for life to try again, to create again, to be reborn into something new. Strangeness is not an exception in evolution, it is a reward. And in that billion-year-long story, we are not just passive spectators. We are a crucial chapter. Notice, we are the species that learned to cook, build cities, paint on cave walls, and compose lullabies. No other species has done that. We are living proof that evolution does not just produce adaptation, it produces imagination. And that imagination may be the most powerful tool to help us overcome this challenge. So when you close your eyes tonight, remember that life always finds a way to start again, quietly but resiliently. And in that silence, we can choose to let wonders continue to resonate. We can be the cause, but we can also be hope. And that is the open question for all of us. Will we leave a symphony unfinished or a melody continued, richer and more vibrant for the generations to come? Throughout Earth's 4.5 billion year history, life has never been a straight line. It is a winding melody, sometimes intense, sometimes silent, sometimes blazing brightly, then fading away. When we look at compressed fossilized shells in rock layers or footprints imprinted in ancient mud, we see not just fragments of time, but a resilient song. Life always finds a way to rise, to regenerate, and to continue. Species may vanish, but the creative force of biology has never stopped. Think back to the Permian period, over 250 million years ago. It was one of the most catastrophic biological disasters ever. More than 90% of marine life disappeared, and the surface of the planet fell into prolonged silence. Yet in that void, nature gradually rewrote its story. From the ashes, new species emerged, paving the way for dinosaurs, for towering forests, and eventually for humans. Paradoxically, extinction created space for evolution. Loss became a doorway to new beginnings. When thinking of dinosaurs, many people only remember their sudden demise due to an asteroid, but their legacy did not vanish. If you listen to a bird singing outside your window in the morning, you are hearing the echoes of dinosaurs. The gentle flapping of wings in today's sky proves that life not only survives, but transforms in ways unimaginably beautiful. This is the first lesson of extinction. An ending is never absolute silence, but a space for the story to continue in a new form. This brings us to the present. We are living in an era scientists call the sixth mass extinction. But this time, the cause is not an asteroid or volcano, but largely humans. Every forest cut down, every coral reef bleached, every polluted river leaves an indelible mark. And while we may feel overwhelmed by the scale of the problem, there is a quiet yet powerful truth. For the first time in history, a single species, us, has the ability to understand the mechanisms of extinction, and more importantly, the ability to change its course. Looking back, we see that life has always relied on two pillars: adaptation and symbiosis. Fungi partnered with plant roots to form forest ecosystems. Insects and flowers co-evolved, creating the vibrant colors we see today. Whales, which returned from land to the sea, became the ocean's grand conductors. And now it is our turn, not as outsiders, but as an inseparable part of that web. The question is, what role will we play? Destroyer or caretaker? Perhaps the answer begins with very small actions, like planting a seed in the garden, choosing to reduce single-use plastics, leaving a balcony corner to bloom so bees can visit. Those seemingly small actions reflect a profound principle: every ripple matters. Today's world often makes us feel small, as if individual efforts are insignificant. But remember, a small flame is enough to light up the night. When many people care together, that resonance can alter the trajectory of the planet. Evidence lies in evolutionary history. Tiny organisms like cyanobacteria once transformed Earth's atmosphere, bringing oxygen and enabling complex life to flourish. If a microorganism can change the world, then humans, with our ability to think, feel, and dream, can surely do so. Perhaps the greatest lesson extinction offers is this: responsibility accompanies opportunity. Every lost species is a story that cannot be repeated, yet it is also a reminder of the fragility and preciousness of what remains. And as you lie there listening to these words in the quiet space before sleep, let this thought gently touch you. We can be the generation that loses or the generation that preserves. We can be witnesses to decay or the authors of a new chapter of regeneration. As Earth continues to spin, as night falls and the stars move silently, you, a small but significant human, are also part of this grand story. And sometimes simply listening, learning, and nurturing care is already a beautiful beginning. Like life in the past, you do not need all the answers immediately. What is necessary is attention, a willingness to look, listen, and care. From that attention, the seeds of change are sown. So, when you close your eyes, carry this thought: extinction is not only a story of ancient fossils, but a mirror reflecting how we live today. And perhaps in your dreams tonight, ancient trilobites will swim alongside whales, fungi will grow next to lavender petals, dinosaurs will soar with sparrows, all harmonizing in a grand melody, the symphony of life that has never stopped echoing. When we think of life, we often imagine it as a complete picture: green trees, animals, humans, oceans, and sky. But in reality, life is never still. It is like a vast symphony, where each note is made from countless moments of trial and loss. And what makes that music resonate across billions of years is not perfection, but adaptability. Throughout history, Earth has often become a stage for tragedy. Five mass extinctions have swept away most life, sometimes due to massive volcanic eruptions that suffocated the atmosphere with toxic gases, sometimes due to asteroid impacts creating a global winter lasting decades, and other times more subtle changes: oxygen levels, sea levels, the shifting of continents. Each of these events was a violent wave, drowning countless species. Yet, from that rubble, life found a way to rise again, creating new, beautiful, and unexpected forms. Imagine ancient coral fields that once flourished and were then wiped out, only for the first fish with hard fins and jointed skeletons to appear afterward. Or, after the cataclysm that destroyed the dinosaurs, tiny mammals, which had only slinked in the shadows, were suddenly given the opportunity to step into the light of day, evolving into countless forms of life, including us. It was the collapse that created the void, and the void became an invitation to creativity. And now, for the first time in history, the main cause of a wave of extinction does not come from an asteroid or volcano, it comes from us. Humans have changed this planet in ways few other organisms ever have. From deforestation and warming the climate to moving species of animals and plants across the globe, disrupting the delicate balance that took millions of years to form. These changes are pushing many species toward disappearance: bees, butterflies, seabirds, coral reefs, even habitats once thought eternal. The remarkable thing is, this time, we are not only the perpetrators, we can also be the rescuers. We know what is happening. We have science, imagination, the ability to question and act. This is a privilege unprecedented in the history of life. Dinosaurs never knew why the sky darkened. Permian forests did not understand why the soil beneath their roots burned, but we do. And because we know, we can choose. You might ask yourself, I am just a small individual. How could I affect the whole planet? But remember, life has never been the story of a single species. It is a network of connections. Every decision you make, from protecting a small garden corner for bees to supporting clean energy technologies, creates ripples in the vast ocean of the future. When many ripples intersect, they can become waves, and those waves can change the course of history. Imagine a quiet night. You look up at the sky and see the twinkling stars. Those points of light are the legacy of supernovae, of great destructions. Without that breakdown, there would be no carbon in our bodies, no oxygen in our lungs, no iron in our blood. We exist because of the delicate balance between destruction and creation. And likewise, in small daily choices, we are participating in a cycle longer than any human life, the cycle of life itself. Perhaps as you hear this, you are lying in a quiet room, your breath steady, your mind gradually calming. And I want you to carry this thought: you are not alone. You are part of the shared story, a chapter being written each day. The birds you hear outside the window, the insects hiding under leaves, the ancient trees standing through storms, all are companions. They cannot choose, but you can. And in that choice, you become the storyteller for generations to come. So consider this moment an invitation. Not an invitation to carry the whole world on your shoulders, but an invitation to live a little more mindfully, observe a little more, and care a little more. When you plant a seed, protect a patch of land, or simply share the wonder of this universe with someone else, you are writing another line in the grand epic of life. And if you are still awake, before gentle sleep takes you, I want to leave a quiet question. What legacy do you want to leave? An empty world, or a world filled with birdsong, the scent of flowers, and opportunities for new generations? The answer does not need to come immediately. Simply thinking about it has already sown the seed. As you close your eyes and let your breath slow, imagine yourself drifting along a very long river. It is the river of time, where past, present, and future all blend together like ripples on the water. On the surface, you see reflections of the moments life has experienced, from the first microorganisms in the primordial oceans to dense forests, then endless grasslands, and finally the bright cities humans have built. Each image passes in a flash, but you clearly sense that all are connected, like heartbeats following one another in a vast body. In that flow, sometimes the water is calm, clear as glass, but at other times it churns, roars, and engulfs everything within sight. Yet never, even in the greatest storms, does the river stop flowing. That is life, a journey that never ceases. And we, are all in our small boats, yet drifting along the same current. If part 8 reminded us of the fragility of nature, this part is an invitation to look deeper within ourselves. Because life does not exist only out there in forests, oceans, or the sky. It also exists in every cell, every heartbeat, every breath you take. Every atom in your body was once part of an ancient star. Every molecule of water you drink has passed through millions of other living beings, from dinosaurs to tiny flowers. Within you is the history of the entire universe. You are not merely witnessing the story of life, you are a chapter in that story. The miracle is, although life can be seen from the micro to the macro, it is always bound by one principle: balance. Trees inhale carbon to exhale oxygen. Humans breathe oxygen to exhale carbon. Oceans absorb heat to regulate climate. Soil nourishes trees. Trees shelter the soil. In that cycle, nothing exists independently. When one link breaks, the entire chain wobbles. Conversely, when a link is healed, the whole chain has a chance to recover. And that is where we can make a difference. You might think that small actions, turning off a light, planting a tree, reducing single-use plastic, are meaningless in the grand picture of the planet. But remember, even the Amazon rainforest began from a single seed, and the tallest mountains were formed from layers of tiny dust accumulating over millions of years. Nature's patience is magnificent, and when we attune to that rhythm, small acts become the drumbeat for renewal. You may ask, if everything eventually disappears, like extinct species, like stars that have burned out, why do these small actions matter? The answer lies in one word: meaning. None of us can permanently alter the fate of the universe, but we can change the experience of life in this present moment. You cannot make a flower bloom forever, but you can nurture it to bloom brilliantly in its season. You cannot stop the sun from setting, but you can pause to appreciate the beauty of the sunset. Those moments, multiplied by billions of people, create a world worth living in, worth dreaming in, worth passing on. Now imagine the future. One day, our descendants may walk beneath lush green canopies, hear birds chirping, breathe fresh air. And when they ask, who kept this world for us? The answer will be all the ordinary people who believed small actions could make a big difference. You may not leave monuments or grand constructions, but you leave a continuing flow. That is the true legacy. And now, as the night deepens and your breath grows steady, I want you to think of yourself as a small note in a vast symphony. You do not need to carry the universe. Just keep your rhythm in harmony. Simply living mindfully, kindly, and valuing connection lets that rhythm blend into the shared melody. And when many heartbeats synchronize, the entire symphony resonates enduringly across the centuries. You may already feel your eyelids growing heavy. That is wonderful, because while you sleep, while your mind drifts into the world of dreams, your body continues the story of life. Cells recover, memories are organized, the heart still pumps blood, nourishing every corner. In sleep, you still participate in the workings of the universe. You never stop being part of that symphony, even in silence. So let this stillness carry you into deep sleep. Let the thought of connection, the fragile yet resilient nature of life, bring you peace. And when you awaken tomorrow, remember that you are continuing a story far longer than any personal memory, a story in which your choices, however small, can ripple outward, touching distant shores you could never imagine. There is something truly fascinating. When we look up at the night sky, what we see is not just the light of the stars. We are looking into the past. That light may have left its star hundreds, thousands, or even millions of years ago, and is only now reaching our eyes. This means that, in every moment, we are living within the same symphony of time, where the present and the past intertwine, where every moment has value. You might think of yourself as small, just a lone human drifting in the vast sea of the universe. But remember, like the light of a star, every action you take, every word you speak, Every kind thought you sow into the world spreads outward, sometimes reaching places far beyond what you could ever imagine. A smile you give may become encouragement for someone on a dark day. A small act you do for the earth may become a seed for an entire garden in the future. You are a star, not because you are perfect, but because your light can illuminate the world, even if only for a moment. As the night deepens, all sounds seem to slow. The rhythm of cars on the road thins, the wind whispers softly outside the window, and the steady beat of your own heart in your chest. Do you hear it? That is the pulse of life, a rhythm connected to millions of other rhythms, of countless creatures of the earth, of the seas, of the universe itself. You are never alone in that rhythm. Imagine lying on a vast field, the starry sky stretching endlessly above. Each star is a story, and the entire sky is an infinite library. As you relax, it is as if you are reading with your heart, not your eyes. You feel the calm surrounding you, like a giant blanket woven from billions of lights. And in that stillness, you realize that you do not need to search for anything more. Right now, right here, you are complete. Perhaps you once thought the meaning of life was something grand, to be achieved in some distant future. But sometimes meaning is found in the smallest moments: a simple family meal, an afternoon walk in the park with someone, a night when you pause to watch the fiery sunset. These things may seem trivial at a glance, but they are the golden threads that weave the tapestry of life. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, you are also weaving a part of that tapestry. Sleep is where your body heals, where your mind finds balance, where dreams plant seeds for tomorrow. Do not see sleep merely as rest. It is also a ritual, a gift you give yourself. Each night, when you sleep well, you are renewing your own journey and the shared journey of life itself. Do you remember the stories of extinct volcanoes, of forests reborn after fire, of tiny resilient seeds sprouting in rocky crevices? All remind us that life always finds a way. No matter how dark the night, morning will come. No matter the loss, there is always renewal. And you, simply by quietly continuing to breathe, continuing to live, are contributing a note to that symphony. So as you prepare to drift into sleep, let go of the lingering worries of the day. They do not need to come with you tonight. Let them dissolve like smoke, leaving you a vast space within your soul. That space is not emptiness, but a place where you can hear your true voice. That voice is gentle, soft, and always reminds you, you are enough, you belong, you are loved. Tomorrow, when the first light slips through the window, you will wake. And remember, you do not wake just for yourself. You wake for the connections around you, for the unfinished dreams, for the story of life itself. You wake to continue writing the next chapter in the grand book we are creating together. Now, relax. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself slowly flying through the starry sky, gently like a leaf falling onto a lake. No effort, no burden, just you and the gentle rhythm of the universe. Tonight is yours. This dream is yours. As we reach the end of tonight's journey, perhaps you have begun to feel a quiet stillness spreading throughout your body. Your eyes half closed, your breath slow, your heartbeat gentle like a soft background melody. This is the moment when the boundary between wakefulness and dreams becomes the most delicate, like a misty bridge stretching between two worlds. And right at that threshold, a question often arises. Where do dreams come from? Are they fragmented pieces of our daytime memories, or are they mysterious whispers of the subconscious, trying to send us a message? For thousands of years, humans have looked up at the night sky and wondered about the meaning of dreams. The ancient Greeks believed they were messages from the gods. The Egyptians inscribed them in dream books as a form of prophecy. Today, science views dreams as a brilliant mechanism for the brain to organize memories, release emotions, and even stimulate creativity. Do you remember the last time you had a dream so strange that upon waking you could not tell whether it was illusion or reality? It is precisely these dreams, with their illogical and mystical nature, that have nourished art, poetry, and science. Many great discoveries, from the molecular structure of benzene to the immortal melodies of countless compositions, sprouted from dreams. This shows that even while you sleep, your brain and soul are weaving wonders. If daytime is the time to sow seeds, then nighttime is the moment for sprouts to emerge. Every dream, whether short or long, vivid or faint, is a piece in your journey of growth and creativity. So never think of dreams as meaningless games of the brain. They are small doors opening into a parallel universe where you can fly without wings, reunite with lost friends, or explore landscapes that have never existed in reality. Imagine, as you close your eyes, you are stepping into a dream garden. Paths are paved with moonlight, lakes reflect millions of stars, and gentle winds whisper in a language you have never heard yet understand perfectly. Every night is a new adventure, and when morning comes, you return with a faint memory, like a small stone brought back from a magical land. No matter how tiny that stone, it is proof that you traveled, that you lived another life within your sleep. But dreams are not only for the night. They also appear in daily life in the form of aspirations, ideas, and things that make your heart beat a little faster. These daytime dreams are equally important as they give you direction, a goal to reach for. So as you drift into sleep tonight, trust that you are fueling both kinds of dreams, the dreams of your subconscious and the dreams of your future. You might wonder, is there any difference between me, a small human lying in bed, and the colossal galaxies spinning out there? The answer is, you and the universe are not separate. You are made of the same elements that form stars and planets. The carbon in your body was once stardust from a star that exploded billions of years ago. The water flowing through your veins once existed in the primordial oceans. The breath you inhale has been part of countless lives before yours. You are the universe experiencing itself in human form, and therefore your sleep is not merely personal rest. It is part of the rhythm of the cosmos. As you settle down, your entire inner world calms, synchronized with the endless flow of life. Before concluding, I want to invite you once more. Allow yourself to enter tonight with gentleness. Do not carry the pressure to dream great dreams. Do not worry about sleeping quickly or deeply. Just let your body naturally do what it has known for millions of years of evolution: rest, heal, and renew. And if you find this journey brings you peace, do not forget to return on future nights. Science and sleep still hold countless stories waiting to be told, from the secrets of the brain to the journey of stardust, from the music of the cosmos to the whispers of trees at night. Each video will be like a new door, opening to scenes where you can both learn and be cradled in peaceful slumber. Subscribe, follow, and accompany me. For sleep is not an endpoint. It is merely a doorway to another adventure. Now I will let this voice gradually fade like a candle burning down to its faintest glow. Allow yourself to gently fall into the arms of the night, without resistance, without hesitation. Just drift, slowly, deeply. Dawn is approaching. After a long night, you slowly open your eyes, and the first light fills the room. It might be a gentle ray of sunlight filtering through a crack in the door, or simply the pale blue of the sky outside the window. Either way, that moment always carries a kind of magic. It marks the beginning of a new cycle. Do you remember the feeling of waking up after a strange dream? Half awake, half asleep, you lie still, trying to hold on to the fragmented pieces of the dream before they vanish. A door, a face, a scene, they slip like grains of sand through your fingers. But sometimes a small detail lingers, planting inspiration for the entire day. That is the gift the dream leaves behind. Not always clarity, but an echo, a reminder that your imagination is vaster than you think. Science has proven that when we sleep, the brain continues to work tirelessly. It organizes memories, connects information, and even finds solutions to problems we couldn't solve while awake. Perhaps you have experienced this, going to bed with a question and waking up the next morning with a sudden answer. This is no coincidence. It is the result of a secret dance in the dark where neurons touch, sending sparks of thought. So when you wake up, you are not simply rising from sleep. You are stepping into a new version of yourself, lighter, clearer, full of potential. You carry within you the power of renewal that only sleep can grant. Imagine, every morning you are like a star reborn from the ashes. Last night you melted, letting your mind fall into darkness only to shine anew today. You and the universe remain in harmony within this cycle. Stars explode, stars form, leaves fall, sprouts grow. The sun sets, the sun rises. Life never ends, it only changes form, and you are part of that cycle. When we look at the morning through this lens, everything suddenly becomes precious. A warm glass of water, a deep breath, a song that begins the day, all are opportunities to reconnect with the flow of life. Just like after a quiet night, all senses are reset, ready to embrace the wonders waiting ahead. Have you ever realized that each dream is a lesson and each dawn is a new beginning? Some dreams take us back to childhood, reminding us of our innocence. Some dreams instill fear, showing that there are things we have yet to face. Some dreams are beautiful, like a piece of music, sowing in us faith in infinite creativity. And when we wake, we are given the chance to turn those messages into tangible actions in our lives. For example, if in your dream you found yourself lost in a forest, then perhaps the next morning is the time to spend a little time in nature, listening to your body. If in your dream you reunited with an old friend, it might be a signal to reconnect, to say the words you have delayed for too long. Dreams are not always prophetic, but they can be mirrors reflecting what your soul needs. And there is another wonder. Dreams connect us. Some dreams are not only individual, but belong to the community. You may dream of an image, and someone else on the other side of the world may have dreamed the same. This is because we share a brain shaped by millions of years of evolution, carrying within it primal symbols, common fears, and collective desires. Dreams, in a sense, are the shared language of humanity, a hidden library where each person contributes a book. When we understand this, we see that sleep, dreams, and wakefulness are not separate. They are three chapters of the same story. Night gives us dreams, morning gives us action, and day gives us experience. Then all returns to night. The circle continues, a never-ending symphony. So, instead of seeing sleep merely as a time to rest, view it as a journey of the soul. Each night you travel through invisible lands. Each morning you bring back a new version of yourself, and each day you live, create, and love until you gently return to the arms of the night once more. If you are hearing these words in the morning, try closing your eyes once more. Take a deep breath, feeling the newly reborn energy flowing through every vein. Imagine that you are not only waking up in this small room, but awakening within the entire universe. You open your eyes, and at the same time, billions of stars shine, billions of hearts beat the first rhythm of the new day. You are never alone. And if you are hearing these words before sleep, take them as a message for tomorrow morning, that you will awaken with a clearer mind, eyes open in wonder like a child, and a heart full of energy to create a wonderful day. No matter what, remember, you are the story the universe is telling through the form of a human, and every sleep, every dream, every morning is a new chapter of that story. We have journeyed together through 12 parts, but this is not the end. It is merely the beginning of a new cycle. Tonight you will dream again, tomorrow you will awaken again, and the loop will continue, just as the stars have burned bright for billions of years. Carry this gentleness with you. Step into sleep or step into the light of a new day. For wherever you are in that circle, you are living fully, still connected to the wonder of the universe.